In brightest day, in blackest night, all other podcasts tremble in fright. Losers cower before the power. Oranges lust and blues you can trust. Indigos feel and white ones heal. Yellows scare and green ones dare. That sapphire love and black hands glove will rock your foundation without hesitation. Chad and Marge face evil's might. Respect their power, for they'll make you see the Hi, everybody. I'm Chad Bokelman.
I'm Mark Marble.
And this is the LanternCast.
Episode 317.
That's right. We are covering the final parts of Zod's Will from Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps by Robert Venditti. This is going to be issues 39, 40, and 41. Mark's taking 39 and 41, and I'm taking 40. So I guess no preamble. We're just going to jump right into it, right?
I suppose so. So we're going to try to stick with the more abridged version of reviews, correct? Give or take.
Yep.
I like the cover. I got the variant cover with Kyle reaching for Hal's ring.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that one. For what it's worth.
I believe that's a Tyler Kirkham cover.
Yes, it is a Tyler Kirkham cover. So I did kind of like that one.
It's interesting too because there's holes in that ring.
Well, I think that's accurate.
Well, I know. I just mean the design wise. If anybody's hasn't seen a good close up of that ring in a while, there's holes in that design.
Oh yeah. So maybe you're a friend at Underworld and Beyond there. That's another one to make. So the creative crew on Zod's Will Part 3, which I like this. What would Hal Jordan do as the title for this issue, which is kind of appropriate? Robert Venditti, Rafa Sandoval, Tomei Mori is the colorist, Tarragona, inker, Dave Sharp, letterer, cover, Sandoval, Tarragona, Moray, and Tyler Kirkham and Moray did the variant cover, and Marino and Mike Cotton are the editors. So, kind of recapping where we were at the end of when we did the first two parts of this. Hal basically willed his ring to escape from the little containment cell. I think the Eradicator had both his and Kyle their rings in so that he could examine them. And so his ring shot through the Eradicator's head, if I remember correctly, and Hal pretty much willed his ring to Kyle so Kyle could go basically bring back the cavalry. And that's kind of like where we pick up here. Hal's kind of being punished and taunted by General Zod, and they kind of have their differing worldviews kind of come out in this about Zod kind of points out, he was trying to be diplomatic and you kind of you ignored or rejected my diplomacy, and Hal points out, you called diplomacy after you basically beat us almost to death. And Zod, of course, says counters how you came. You weren't invited, and you were more or less the aggressors in this conflict. We switch back to Mogo over here, where we find that Kyle pretty much is in a containment field because ever since he arrived with Hal's ring, he's like supercharged, or the Energizer Lantern, as Guy refers to him as. Since Kyle can't control this ring, this power, that they just have to keep him there until they know what to do with him. Kyle reveals the General Zod is basically what the problem was, who they ran into. All of a sudden, Guy and John trying to come up with a game plan for what to do. Guy just wants to leap into action, and John says, "Well, we have to at least try the new routine and go and talk to the Guardians first." All the while, I like the fact that we find which I find really interesting, is Hal's ring obviously had which is a new trend, which I like. Hal's ring has a little bit of a lot of Hal's personality literally in it. So it rubs off on Kyle, and Kyle starts acting and talking like Hal Jordan, which is really funny because I like the way Guy picks up on that. It's really funny. Like, it looks like you're wearing Jordan's rings. It's giving you cajotes to go, but look. And I like, or later on when he goes, let the howl wash over you. I love that line. That was just great. John goes to the Guardians. He explains the situation. John is kind of expecting and kind of hoping that the Guardians are going to say, yeah, you're absolutely right, go get him. But the Guardians have this little internal debate on different sides, pointing out maybe we shouldn't do this because one side wants to say, hey, we should do it because Zod was sentenced to the Phantom Zone, we need to put him back in there. The other side says, well, hey, that's Kryptonian law, that's not our law, we really have no involvement in this. And more or less the Guardians say, we need some time to think about this, and we'll let you know when we make our decision. At this point, meanwhile, Guy kind of organizes a jailbreak, more or less, an attempted jailbreak for Hal. He takes Kyle, and a whole bunch of a task force of Lanterns head back to deal with General Zod. And, as they're flying off into space, John just kind of smiles to himself, what took you so long, since that was kind of what John really wanted to happen all along. In a way, John was buying time dealing with the Guardians. Zod keeps telling the Eradicator to keep going on his mission to uncover everything, unlock everything in the ring, pretty much. Even though the ring has some protocols and is delaying him, all he cares about is for the Eradicator to decipher everything and understand everything and get all the information at the ring. Kyle, again sounding like Hal, leads the task force. They arrive back on Zod's planet. The Eradicator is tempted to leap into action, but that's when Zod kind of again reiterates, you need to stay here and do what you need to do. So the citizens of the planet all chant Zod. They charge into battle. Kyle, takes the lead, and so it's freaking out with this energy, and starts putting a whooping on him. And Zod, Ursa, and what was it, Lore, right? Lore.
Yeah, Lore Zod.
That they leap into action to counter the Green Lanterns, and that pretty much is where this part ends.
I like the art. I think I've said that up.
I don't like how he draws Kyle, though. He does not draw Kyle with that mask well, and the way that Kyle's hair goes back kind of gives him that receding hairline kind of look.
I think his hair is going back, though, because it's just the power is blasting off of him.
It could be, but I think I'm pretty sure he's drawn him like that before. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I enjoy the art all throughout. They say a couple of things in here, and I guess I'll get to it at the end. But I knew from word go how this story was going to end based on how it started. And by new, I mean I had a pretty good guess. Obviously, I wasn't sure, but yeah, I was pretty damn sure how the story was going to end. And throughout the story, including in this issue, they dropped hints of it too. So, the people are praising this over online, and not that they shouldn't be. It's a good arc with some good art. It's a good action story. You get some good Zod moments and Kryptonian moments if you're into the Superman lore. You get some good Green Lantern stuff, both sort of inter-office, political intrigue, how the Green Lantern Corps is supposed to function, and you get some personal moments between Kyle and Guy and John and Hal and so on and so forth. But this story from top to bottom was pretty predictable for me. Which I guess I'll just have to get to later. But in terms of this particular issue, I just thought it was interesting how many words were in this book, because it's not like a Robert Venditti book, and this isn't a detriment. I'm not saying that he's a lazy writer or anything like that, so don't misconstrue what I'm saying, guys, but this was a pretty wordy issue for a Robert Venditti Green Lantern book, don't you think?
I would say that's true.
Yeah. There was quite a lot of talking, both between Hal and Zod, and as well as just the Lanterns debating what they're going to do, and John and the Guardians. There's just quite a few word bubbles on the page, which again, not a detriment. I'm just saying I noticed it. That just this one seemed to be a bit more of a wordy issue, but lots of great shots, artistic wise in it. And I still continue to like how like the Eradicator is drawn and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean the new look for the Eradicator is good. I mean overall it's probably the closest. It's still not quite perfect, but again, I mean, I kind of interrupted my own thought, or else it would make more sense. I was gonna say it's still not as quite as perfect a dead-on likeness of the Reign of the Superman, Last Son of Krypton Eradicator, but it's probably about the closest that we've gotten. And I understand that it's not. There were specific reasons why that character looked, the way he did. I mean, in the Reign of the Superman, but this is pretty damn close. If they would just arc his cape a little bit back on the shoulders, I'd be a little happier, because then he almost would be 100% a dead ringer. But once in a while they kind of draw him, and the way they sometimes, like on the top of the page when right after the lanterns fly off from Mogo when Eradicator is talking to Zod, just the way the cape kind of like drapes over his shoulders in that top panel, that kind of reminds you of the way the Eradicator's cape was, even though the real cape was kind of like arced upwards, so like there was some stiffness to the cape that this one clearly doesn't have, because even in the panel, a couple of panels down on that same page, you see how it just kind of like it literally just laying across him and bunched in the front. But yeah, I think that the reinvention, the rebirth Eradicator, is a welcome sight.
Sure. What else do you think about it? Anything jump out to you overall?
I mean, again, Kyle fans probably wouldn't like this as much, but I do like I like the Hal's ring being obviously a lot more willpower at this point anyway than Kyle's really able to 100% control. I like the fact that I just like the fact that again it has the imprint of because Hal literally created that ring, because Hal's ring is again literally unique now, kind of like the way in a different way Kyle's ring was unique at when there was no core. That the essence of Hal is in that ring, and like Guy said, just let the Hal wash over you.
which is cool, and it speaks to Hal in this particular issue and his power and familiarity with the ring and all that. But it also gives Kyle a cool moment in the issue I'll be reviewing.
That is true too.
So, all right. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think we can move on to part 2 for tonight. Part 4 overall, right?
Yeah. Hal's Road to the Green Lantern Corps issue 40, Zod's Will, and the ring shall break him on the cover. The variant cover shows Lore Zod holding Guy's hand and kind of crushing his wrist, and says, "Kneel before Zods."
Yeah, that's the one we have. Another Tyler Kirkham cover.
Never Leave a Lantern Behind is the name of the story. We have Robert Venditti as the writer, Rafa Sandoval as the penciler, Jordi Tarragona as the inker, colorist Tomoe Mori as the colorist, letterer Dave Sharp, cover Sandoval, Tarragona, and Mori, variant cover Tyler Kirkham and Tomoe Mori, assistant editor Andrew Marino, editor Brian Cunningham. So we open up back on Mogo in Space Sector 0, and John is being reamed by the Guardians because they know that the Lanterns took off to take care of, to go get Hal, which is against their direct orders. And John brushes this off his shoulders, saying, "Unfortunately, it took me too long to get back to them, and they had already left. So, whether we like it or not, the rescue of Hal Jordan is underway." Then over on the planet Jexul, or whatever you want to call it, Jekul. Everybody's fighting. Kyle's going up against Zod while some of the other Lanterns are taking on Ursa, and Guy is not really taking on, but being beaten up by Lord Zod. Zod is a bit confused, as you look like a Lantern who fled from my stockade. You couldn't be. He was beaten up. He was foolish. He'd be foolish to try and attack me again. And Kyle says, "It's me, Zod. Same Kyle Rayner new look. I wield the will of 2 Green Lanterns now, mine plus the will that Hal infused his ring with when he forged it. I know what you're thinking. That isn't possible. Well, here's how impossible feels." Ursa gets taken down by some lanterns and pinned to the ground. And then Kyle creates some constructs and slams Zod into the ground. He says that was for Hal. The Coast City, and then you can hear Hal in the darkness saying, "The Coast City train, my ring is teaching you a thing or two, Kyle. I hate being grounded. Fish gotta swim, pilots gotta fly. Enjoying being me while you can." At this moment, the natives try and attack the Green Lanterns. Chad takes them down.
Nice going, Chad.
With some suppressive fire, so, good stuff there. This pisses off, is this Iolande?
Yes.
Yeah. This pisses off Iolande and Space Ape, and they take them down. Lord Zod takes a sucker punch at Guy. Kyle is getting his ass handed to him by Zod. And this is kind of when Zod gives the go-ahead. Ursa breaks free. Lord Zod starts kicking some ass. And the Zods start getting the upper hand. And this is when Kyle says the following. "I know what you're thinking, Zod. Hal is in some impenetrable cell where his ring can't get to him. You're too good a tactician to fall for the same plan twice, right? Well, I'm too creative to repeat what's been done before. I figure I don't need to get Hal's ring to him. It's like he says, his ring is him. I just wanted to get close enough to bring the rest of him to it." And Hal says, because he can, for some reason he's starting to hear what Kyle's saying. He says, "No, don't do it, Kyle. You're in bad shape. This isn't the time to try things that have never been done before." Kyle says, "Both our wills working together." And Hal says, "All right, if I can't stop you, I'm with you." Zod says, "Surrender," and Kyle says, "Surrender. We don't know the meaning." And burst of energy. He goes kind of supernova for a minute, flashes on, burns up most of the power on him. And the ring goes flying off of him, searches for Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan found. The rest of the Green Lanterns are pinned back. Zod says the battle is over, and Hal says, then all of a sudden, "Hate to break it to you, General, I don't take orders." And next, the sky isn't big enough for the two of them. What do you think of this one?
Again, I'd say it was predictable to a large extent, a lot of things that happened in the issue, but it was, from an action perspective, it was pretty good. It kind of sucks. I mean, it's understandable to see so many Green Lanterns getting their asses kicked. I mean, considering the circumstances, but so that's kind of a given based on who they're facing. But it's a little disappointing on that level, ideally. But I do like the whole, again, the Cal and Hyle, whichever would you prefer. I like Hal and Kyle working together. Literally, for when Hal was reaching out to him, almost like using the Force kind of thing, reaching out and acting and kind of partially through Kyle at the same time, or giving part of himself to Kyle to help, or even early on in the book when he senses, when he felt what was going on. So it was pretty good.
I have a question, and I'm looking it up now, just to see what I can find, if I can find anything. But if you can, stretch your mind way on back to around Green Lantern New Guardians 30 or so. These sunstones that these beings are wielding, do you think they're the same things that the God Killers had? Because they're blue like it, and I'm just wondering if it's the same thing.
Yeah, that is true, and they never kind of picked up on that tech, right? We never saw anything done with that. It could be. I'd say the thing that would point against it was obviously that Robert had nothing to do with New Guardians, and whether he would Well, either way, I mean, if we get to interview him, I guess if we make a note, we could ask him about that. Because I was going to say we know we're never going to find out in actual comic books, since he's only got like 2 more arcs left. We know we're never going to get the answer to that question in the books themselves. It could be. I guess it could be. That was a good catch based on the color. I didn't really put the 2 and 2 together from a possibility, but it could be.
Yeah, I'm sort of paging through 30 right now, which is the last appearance of them in that one.
They were a little more glowy, weren't they? The stuff that got
they were glowy. But I'm on a page right now where Kyle says, "What are those damn weapons?" But I still don't see anywhere where they respond to that. Our weapons can kill anything that lives, but we could not just assume that would apply to you. All they keep saying is their weapons. They don't say anything about what their weapons are.
And plus, the stuff that they're mining from this planet in particular, that was just that mineral or whatever is just uniquely able to penetrate, among other things.
Yeah, but what if that's the raw material and the stuff that the God Killers wore is like the refined
It could be
stuff. So it's just like that's part of why I was asking. It's odd. I decided to bring it up since the color template was similar. It's capable of breaking through a Green Lantern construct, so on and so forth. So, all right, what else do you have to say about this issue?
I don't think I have that much more to say. It was entertaining. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's you said it's predictable. Yeah, but it's also not very progressive plot wise. I mean, it's just kind of this is the fight issue.
Yeah, I do think once again, and this really makes, and I got to be honest, this really makes me nervous heading into the Controllers arc, because I think that friggin' thing is the Dark Stars arc, because I think that thing is like 6 issues long. That this seems to be another arc that could definitely have been shortened, at least by 1 issue, if nothing else. I think it definitely could have been a 4 arc issue. I didn't think it needed to be 5, and it does make me, and it does, like I said, I'm hoping, as usual, I'm hoping that the Dark Stars that's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to be reading. But again, just the mere fact that it's so long makes me uncomfortable. And
yeah, I'm also curious too about that. Before we move on to the next one thing I was curious about on this story is what exactly happens to Kyle here on this one, because it just seemed like he shone real bright for a minute.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the ring petered out and went to go find him. Couldn't Kyle have just taken off the ring and said, "Hey, go find Hal"?
Yeah, I think that is kind of. It was anticlimactic, that part too, and Zod's and you can't even say Zod's reaction was being a dick. Zod's reaction was pretty accurate or logical based on all the banter and all the machoism and bragging and everything else. You kind of he had every reason to expect a little bit more impressive display before the ring just went to find Hal to begin with.
It would have been more impressive if it switched their places. You know what I mean? Because Cal's it's not the time to try things that have never been done before, and you're thinking, oh shit, something's about to really happen here. If it were somehow able to swap their places, that would be interesting.
That is true. That's true.
I don't know what they're trying to go for here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been clever.
And I just paged through all the God Killers arc, and nothing tells me what their weapons are made out of. So, all right. Last issue, number 41.
Number 41, and I purposely picked the non-variant cover on this one with the "Who's the Greatest Now" on it when Zod's standing victorious over Hal, seemingly about to put on his Green Lantern ring. More false advertising. But Yeah, the variant cover was pulled for me, but I like the Zod cover. The Zod's will cover better. Thus, I actually chose to get it. So, the Zod's will conclusion, the rule of law. Robert Venditti, the artist in this one is Brandon Peterson. Tomei Morey, colorist. Dave Sharp. Sandoval, Tarragona Morey did the cover. Tyler Kirkham and Morey again did the variant. And Andrew Marino and Brian Cunningham are the editors in this one. So pretty much, let's cutting to the chase. This is actually this is a somewhat interesting issue. The majority of what happens in this issue can be summed up really quickly. That almost the entire issue is a duke out between Hal and General Zod. And General Zod again continues to talk about his arrogance. He continues to be arrogant and talk about how we know the outcome of the battle. I mean, it's only going to end one way. And Hal kind of points out this isn't going to go like our last fight, Zod, because I know what that I'm going up against the Kryptonian this time, and everything else. So there's no element of surprise working for Zod. So there's some really cool moments of Hal and Zod going against each other. It's also an underlying, which again I think people in the military would enjoy this too. The branch rivalry kind of and perception of your branch being superior no matter what that branch is. So Zod is more like is a general. He's an army guy. So he sees things one way. Hal is an Air Force guy. So he sees things another way. And Hal does kind of have a good moment when he literally says to him, it's like I love you army guys, every fight is forward. It's like, you know what the Air Force taught me. And Zod, again being Zod, it's like, tell me, I'll use my heat vision to sear it on your gravestone. And he's like, yeah, aerial battles are 360 degrees. And basically Kyle, damn it, I keep saying Kyle, which is amazing. That Hal more or less suckers guy. Oh my God! Take 5. I'm gonna. Ralph Cramden is doing the review of this episode. Zod gets suckered by Hal. A plane crashes into him, and then I like this point too. Hal says, you know what? After all these years as a pilot, you know what? One thing I've never did. It's like I never crashed 2 planes at once. And he more or less kind of makes a Zod sandwich out of 2 energy constructs. Zod is down for the count. Hal, and kind of being Hal and being boasting himself at the moment. He says, by the laws of the Green Lantern Corps, it's like you're under arrest. And Guy being Guy, it's like hey, Jordan is like, damn, do I hate that I love that guy. And of course, right at this moment, because we have nothing better to do, the Guardians and Salak Salak's Planet Men, his fellow member of his race, that doctor that came over in the New Gods arc. The Guardians, John and the Salak race member shows up, and the Guardians pretty much say, hey, you must release the general. And Hal's kind of like, how can you do that? It's like, it's like we gotta act quickly. Though he's gonna recharge into the Yellow Sun. It's like, this is the funny part, though, I thought, when Hal says, like, we have to get Zod to a science, or when he was taunting Zod, I should say, when he was taunting Zod about, forget about the Phantom Zone, you're going through a science cell where you're never going to get out of. How many people have we seen get out of science cells one way or the other? It's like the easiest prison in the universe to get out of. It's easier to get out of that than like the county jail or in like Mayberry or something. So Hal's kind of pointing out, if we got to get him in a science cell, blah blah blah, and John says, no, do what he says, and Ganthet and the Guardians say, Ursa Zod, release our lanterns. We have come to take them home with their rings. Zod kind of again boasts, if any leave this world, Guardians, it's because I allow it. Your lanterns attacked us, blah 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 blah, and he keeps on going on this, being self-righteous and everything else. The Eradicator now shows up with the confiscated ring of Kyle Rayner. Kyle Rayner's ring goes back on his finger. the doctor says, this ring will stabilize Kyle Rayner's injuries for now, but his wounds require immediate surgery. Hal's really pissed off, and I should say I really don't like the way Hal is drawn in this issue, certainly up close. And Hal, John kind of points out, no, this was, the whole mission was, it was a rescue mission to bring you and Kyle home. That's the important thing. You need to trust me on this. And Hal's like, you just better know what you're doing. John just kind of goes to Zod at the end, is like, hey, don't take me for a fool, Zod. I know you're up to something, and you don't want our protection because Zod rejects the Green Lantern's protection and says that we're gonna protect ourselves. And John just said, if you don't want our protection, that's great, but I will protect the rest of the universe from you. If it comes time to take you down, I will. So we have some interesting discussions about between Hal and John at the end. And John points out, well, we have to John's thinking is we have to give the Guardians a chance because the Guardians essentially wanted to do something different. It's so easy because that our problem with the old Guardians was that they were manipulators and interventionalists. And these Guardians actually chose a path not to do that. They chose something different. And if we push them, if we reject them, we may, literally push them back into, going down that path again and making the same mistakes. We cut back to Zod, and Zod and family are reunited, and we find out that the entire point of what Zod wanted to get out of the Green Lantern rings was pretty much a map of the universe, the population statistics for every inhabited world, along with their military strength and everything else, and that's pretty much what Zod wanted. And which I really like this little point, which makes me wonder if this is going to be picked up on in the next two arcs, that John and Hal, the issue concludes with Hal pointing out, which picks up on the issue when he back with the Superman arc not that long ago, when Hal and Superman had that conversation. It's like, did you ever think that maybe more or less like kind of like ending a threat permanently, if we just did that once, we crossed that line, it's like it would make things better because they wouldn't have to deal with these threats over and over again, or repeat threats. And both of them kind of go, no, never did. It's like, yeah, me neither. But we kind of have a little different take on this now, because Hal says, do you ever? Because obviously Hal's been thinking about this after the fact, because he goes afterwards, referring to the Superman conversation. I couldn't help but think if we took care of threats, permanently once in a while, the universe would be a much safer place. And John counters that by saying, I've been there. That isn't police work. It's war. And that ends the arc.
So this kind of tells you, it's the end of the arc, so I can talk about it. From the very beginning, I knew it was going to end in this stalemate, because from the first issue of this arc through every other issue, they keep saying that the Green Lantern Corps attacked the Kryptonians unprovoked. Now, you can sit there and say, okay, that's just Zod being a villain and playing the victim and blah, 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 blah. But it is technically true. Hal and Kyle turned around, saw Zod, and started firing. So you knew all along that this was going to happen. I kind of feel that, maybe the Guardians could have pulled some Star Trekian, rule of, what's the one where you're not supposed to interfere?
Prime Directive?
Yeah, the Prime Directive. Because technically Zod is an outside alien, and his family are an outside alien force imposing their will on an evolving planet. And they're not supposed to be doing that. But at the same time, you got to think of, any other worlds in the DCU where aliens have shown up and been hailed as gods. And that has played a part into that particular planet's evolutionary process and so on and so forth. So I wonder if, if it looks like the native people are willingly accepting this outside force and not being slave to it, then there's nothing that the Green Lantern Corps or the Guardians can do or something. So you kind of saw all along how it was going to end in that way. So that was pretty interesting. I'm not a fan of the art in this issue either. Like you mentioned, there are a couple of pages where I think it's kind of cool, but overall, I'm not really a big fan of it. 100%. This is Brandon Peterson this time around.
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
Zod. I don't think Zod's drawn that badly. I don't think Zod looks that badly. But Hal looks. Hal for most of the real panels where you see Hal's face, not a profile, but like a full-on look of his face, especially the hair. The hair is drawn really weird. That I don't think Guy's drawn horribly too. You don't see much of Kyle, so it's hard to judge. But Guy's doesn't look like really Guy. I don't think John doesn't really look too much like John. Even the Guardians look weird. So I think other than Zod, I think this is a fail. I think the artwork in this issue is pretty much a fail. I kind of did like that we kind of got essentially a one-on-one showdown with Hal and Zod, and so for people like I remember when Corwin was concerned about or raised the question anyway, where did the about the power levels demonstrated like in the first issue of this arc, did we think that was realistic or unrealistic? And maybe I guess in kind of I'm reading into a little because it's Corwin, so. And maybe I'm wrong, but kind of like making it that maybe it shouldn't have been that easy for Zod and everybody to kind of to rip through, especially Hal. But at least we kind of got partial explanation for why Zod was able to to do that, and we also saw that Hal is able to, under the right circumstances anyway, hold his own with Zod. So I think a little bit of those fears were erased, and obviously from a morale perspective, because it's even referenced in the issue, when Ursa wants to pick up and continue to fight after Zod gets his ass handed to him, the Corps is like much more reinvigorated, and the morale is much higher to go back and take him on again after seeing what Hal was able to do to Zod. So I think that kind of so that part I think that was a nice kind of like way to that aspect of the ending was kind of nice. My overall assessment of the arc was kind of like it kind of was exactly where we were coming into this. I mean, I didn't expect much out of this arc. I do think this unfortunately falls into is yet another arc that at least had some promise to it that doesn't really have great resolution. And and again, it's one of those back to status quo, but that things, it lays the foundation for things down the road. But of course, it isn't nearly as cool to do that, especially especially now that we know the writer's leaving the book. So if anybody does pick up on this whenever it happens, it ain't going to be him.
Yeah.
So
another thing too is Zod says, and I'll just quote him here. So forgive me, folks. Your lanterns arrived here uninvited, attacked without cause, under the guise of their laughable protection. I've seen the results of the Green Lantern Corps' protection. Krypton and my people were annihilated on their watch. The House of Zod has found new people here. We are building a new life. For that, Lantern Jordan beat me. Is that law? Is that justice? I say it's tyranny. The House of Zod will die fighting it, and the universe will know Krypton's final family died in defense of their autonomy. So it's very clear we're getting yet another, and if you read the solicits for the Dark Stars arc, it's very clear we're getting yet another, should the universe trust the Green Lantern Corps anymore, and somebody else, the universe doesn't trust them anymore, and somebody else is going to rise to replace them, or the universe is going to back another horse, which I gotta say I'm already sick of. I mean, we've been down this road before. We've been down this road recently. I know that between Cullen building up the Sinestro Corps and Venditti writing the, Space Jesus Hal, Renegade Hal, that was kind of what that was. So are we really going here yet again? Did Venditti know this was the Dark Stars arc was going to be his second to last, and technically last if you consider how short his next arc after it would have to be?
3 issues, I believe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not looking forward to the Dark Stars arc because I'm pretty sure a big component of it will be the Green Lanterns can't be trusted anymore. The Guardians, the Guardians are back in command and we can't trust them anymore. We need somebody else to protect the universe, blah, blah, blah. Who asked you to protect us? That whole shtick, which
Right.
we had recently and we had for quite a while. So I'm done with it. We don't need it again. I'm looking forward to the Dark Stars arc, and one reason only, seeing the Dark Stars again, seeing the Controller, seeing more of the Green Lantern mythos side of things, and seeing how they adapt the Dark Stars and so on and so forth. It also looks like some of it takes place on Earth, so happy to see that, and the Lanterns being on Earth and everything. Maybe this will be a part of the reason, or we'll see kind of the groundwork being laid for why John Stewart joins the Justice League later on. So based on solicits, we know coming up a new Justice League #1's coming or whatever, and John Stewart is going to be part of the Justice League, which means he's going to stop being leader of the Corps, we think, unless he's pulling double duty. So clearly his favor falls with the Guardians in some way, shape, or form. We're going to probably assume it's going to take place in the Dark Stars issues. The Dark Stars issues take place largely on Earth, it looks like, based on cover images and so on and so forth. So I'd be interested to see all that. But I'm not interested in I'm not looking forward to the Dark Stars art for two reasons. One, it's linked, like Mark mentioned. And two, the fact that we're just, like I said, getting yet another, we can't trust the Green Lantern Corps, we can't trust the Guardians, who's going to police us? We're going, that whole thing.
I think the other problem with what compounds these long arcs is, and it, again, who knows, and that would be one of the questions I'd like to ask Robert Venditti, and who knows, even if we don't get an interview with him, maybe we could at least ask him, tweet the question to him, maybe he would answer that exactly what arc, or when he knew that he was going to leave the book. Where was he in writing these stories that we're getting now? When exactly did he know that, and did it influence what he was doing? Because to me, the other problem with these long arcs is, again, it's like a lot of these things are laying breadcrumbs, and you kind of suspect even at the end of the Dark Star arc, it's going to be the same kind of thing, where it's going to be, there's not going to be a great resolution to anything, and it lays breadcrumbs again, but yet that's even worse when you're leaving the book. I mean, from a different perspective, looking at the opposite point of view, you could say, well, I want to do that on purpose because I'm leaving all these potential storylines for the next writer to pick up on if he wants to. So I'm kind of like putting a lot of stuff on their plate. Not that they have to pick up on, but they have multiple threads to pick up on right away if they want to, or if they want to shortly after going in a direction of their own, just to get your feet wet. But then if you want to, there's plenty of different choose your own adventure. There's like 3 different ways you could go right off the bat. When you choose to go that way. So I could see it from that perspective too, but it's kind of harder when you know that he's leaving the book, that to go through these long arcs and not have much change. And I could also understand not maybe him feeling that he doesn't want it to do anything that's going to dramatically change the status quo because he's leaving the book. That might not, you could look at it from that perspective too, that it's not exactly the potentially coolest thing to do is to really shake up the status quo dramatically, and then, hey, by the way, and there you go, hand the baton off. And so I could understand that, but it doesn't make for as compelling reading, and I'm really curious. I'm curious to see, and maybe this is a good way for us to end. As we were doing these issues, I was kind of thinking about this. Maybe to throw out stuff that we think might be in Venditti's final arc, only because there have been no solicits yet for any issues in his final arc. So, but as far as this arc goes, it was okay. It was longer than it probably needed to be. I wasn't looking forward to it. I'm still not looking forward to it. It kind of does make the Green Lanterns look weak, even if not physically. Again, the fact that none of the Lanterns, none of the Guardians were bright enough to figure out that Zod might have wanted to get information out of the ring. And isn't there a way to know? Isn't there something programmed in the ring to know if it's been something tried to interface with it, or you would think there would be something that wouldn't be that hard to figure out. And
Well, if nothing else, the fact that the freaking, of all beings, the Eradicator comes out of the sky holding the ring,
right.
saying, "Here's the ring we confiscated." You really think that he didn't look into it? And plus, didn't Kyle or Hal overhear them say something about taking the ring to be inspected or something?
Maybe that could have been in one of the first 2 parts. It could have been.
So, all right. Anything else you want to go over before we close out?
No, I think that kind of sums this up.
All right. Want to tell people how they can reach out to us? And what sort of content to send our way?
Oh yes, and I don't even have my document open, but that's all right because, well, this is kind of what we were thinking about, and we're throwing this out there as a possibility. Just if anybody's interested in doing so. We know we've talked about, the idea was floated out there as a suggestion to us about maybe having other people on to do issue reviews, and that is something we're obviously still will do at some point. There's no doubt. But in the meantime, especially with the superhuman trafficking, right? That's the last 2 issues of that arc we still have to cover. If anybody would like to do like make it under 10 minutes, preferably like a 5 to 8 minute recap / review of one of the 2 parts of that arc, and send it our way, there is a pretty decent chance, depending, of course, we're never going to get like a lot of takers on this, but if we had like 3 or 4 people take us up on each issue, then I don't think we probably wouldn't play all of them. We would probably pick one, I would guess. But if anybody was interested in doing that and basically doing a 10-minute MP3 or doing a recording and sending it over to us, you could send it over to our email, which is LanternCast@gmail.com. Because it's certainly an idea that Chad and I were throwing around. It's a possibility of where people gave us reviews of those, especially those 2 issues. Maybe we would play one review of each issue, and then we would, discuss their review and discuss the issues as a whole.
When you say send a review, do you mean send a recap or send their thoughts on the issue as well?
What do you mean?
Well, are they going to, when they record it, because you said the word review a couple of times, so I just want to clarify. Are they sending in their review of the issue, or are they recapping the issue for us?
I'm assuming it would be both, because it was just the way we recap and we review. So I was kind of, people can do it any way they want. If they just want to send in a straight up recap of what happens in it and not really put in any personal thoughts of one way or the other whether they liked it, but I kind of find it hard to believe, at least at the end, somebody wouldn't want to make it clear whether they liked it or didn't. But either way, we're open. So if anybody wants to do that, certainly under 10 minutes, try to keep it at least, try to keep it around 20 megs or less, ideally, somewhere in that range for a file, because we shouldn't have problems getting those attachments in a Gmail account. So LanternCast@gmail.com. The LanternCast.com, the website, Twitter, Facebook, use hashtag GLCast to locate us on those. iTunes and Stitcher, please leave us a positive review on whichever platform you listen to us on. And 708 Lantern is the voicemail. And let us know what you think.
Awesome. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next time.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.